finding a confusion and how to go about that and how to explore what's going on inside of them. And so they tell me. In fact, I had a recent experience with this once, actually recently, a couple weeks ago, with a friend of mine who's a lawyer. And he said, well, I have something to tell you. I need to ask you something. I was like, okay. And he leans over and he gets very whispery. And he's like, well, I'm worried that I don't last that long in bed. You know, in the sack, in that moment. You know, he's like, I take care of my wife and that's, but I'm really worried about this. And I was like, that's entirely understandable. And when I told him that actually 3 to 4 minutes was the average, the national average, he just lit up and he beamed. He's like, I told him that taxes were canceled that year. You know, so it's this very important expression, and that's yes, married men, which goes on to help their relationship. And then of course I've also been the repository of many a woman, young, old, sometimes 80, who come to me because they want to share the things that they experienced that they don't know how to say. The confusions, the ways that they made a mistake that they're ashamed of, or they want to try something and they don't know how to go about it. Because as much as we love the culture of girlfriends and the culture of women, I'm sure a lot of you have experienced, there are still codes. Even there are certain things that you're still not supposed to say. And they tell me these things. I have also had, on a one-night stand, a CEO spend the entire night crying in my arms. I do not know what it was that he was crying about. He didn't tell me. It was merely a nameless grief that needed expression. And this is why we're important. This is the conduit and the release valve that we offer so that things can actually slowly move along and maintain their balance. And the reason that these people trust me, you know, why do they come to me with these confessions, is because they know and they sense and they feel that I have walked through it. Literally. There is not a story I have not heard. I have spent perhaps far too much time at bus stops and dark corners and side roads and bars and foreign bridges. I've hung out with bikers and drag queens and vampires and neighborhood women and poets and senators. I have been around. So, and in that process, what I give to them is that I do not judge them. We are all flawed, miraculous human beings. And instead what I give them is that thing we most all need most of the time, which is an act of compassion. In Sierra Leone, the actual literal definition of prostitute is a walkabout woman, or a walk-alone woman. It is the idea that those who exist on the outside carve out our spaces and make it possible for us to question some of the very basic foundations of what our society is built on and what we expect of ourselves, and that are allowed to constantly evolve because we are moving into the future and things will continually change. And the role of the Horde keeps this moving and keeps this going because, you know, as a lot of speakers have talked about today, the future is going to be very interesting. And everything is going to be called into question. Monogamy, fidelity, love, devotion, gender, all of these different things. And they all have their value and they all have their beauty. But we need those figures that poke at them, pry them apart, open up the back door on them, and allow us to occasionally perceive that something different might be possible. Or as we're struggling through it and trying to find our own truth within that process, that we're treated with a little bit of mercy. And so, what I wish for the future, as we move into this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous millennium that we are a part of, I do not wish for the horrors to disappear. What I wish for instead is for them to cease to be treated with contempt. I wish for them to be honored and to be valued for the very vital role, they, she, all of us as whores, the very vital role that we play in the world. And so I'm going to leave you with this. I have one suggestion for you. I suggest that the next time you meet one, you buy her a martini. Because I guarantee that life is better, possibly wiser, and certainly more interesting because she's in it. Yeah, okay, is that possible? I'd be happy to answer a few questions if anyone has them. Yes, sir.
I had heard that the main person who exposed any word nature was but because Ted Tilton turned out to be having a lot of affairs, and because he was very inconsistent in his storyline, that's why Beecher got let off the hook.
Well, that was legal issues because they were business partners, so there was definitely some myriad things that happened amongst them and what happened. But she didn't just out. He was having an affair with his business partner's wife. However, he was also very, very popular with the ladies. His church pews were packed. And he regularly sort of sampled the desserts as it was work. So that's the part that's interesting. He wasn't doing anything illegal. But what was interesting was that when Victoria Woodhull printed his behavior and what he had been doing in the paper, it was she who was condemned for that, and not him. Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's a separate incident. That was not aware of.
Oh yeah, no, he was a randy guy.
Oh,
Him and his feature boats.
I have the impression he was randy, but I was just not aware of the.
It is pretty fascinating. There's a lot more details involved in it, but yes.
On the last part about no longer holding towards contempt and recognizing their value, I wonder if that would undermine their value of society. Because it seems like if you then recognize their value, you're no longer having them on the outskirts, you're then bringing them in the middle and praising them. So I was just wondering if you could comment on maybe.
You know, that's actually a very interesting idea, and it's very, unfortunately, I'm going to sort of respond kind of in a poetic way, which is, yes, you're absolutely right. Some level of marginalization is what creates that, and there will always be systems of respectability. I hope for those to change to allow for greater tolerance, but there will always be structures in place. And so I think in that, the sort of core figure, there will always be a figure who exists outside to challenge those structures, whatever those structures may be. Currently, right now, yes, I sleep late, I drink whiskey, I smoke cigarettes, I sweat a lot. I'm a big, dirty, messy person who will do the inappropriate thing at any given moment. So it's political, it's societal, and sometimes it's also just, it's like I said, it can also be that sort of bohemian fighter for freedom, truth, and beauty, and sort of existing to smash whatever systems are in place. So the whore, to me, is like a sort of multifaceted figure and entity that's basic, like the rooted thing, chain, bleached hair, the sort of slut, the girl is trying to achieve something but isn't respected, to a sort of much more poetic, essential kind of archetype, almost. So within that, yes, I don't wish for society to get too open and loose all over the place. We need some grooves. We need some grooves so we can spill over them. Yes.
That's not horror magazine.
I would love to tell you about horror magazine. We're actually, I didn't bring any with me today because we are sold out of the third issue. Yes, thank you. We are pretty much almost ready to get the fourth issue out, which has exciting things in it, like an article about Pussy Riot and Lee Miller and Delphina. If any of you have ever been to Bimbos and looked behind the bar and seen a strange image of a naked woman floating in an aquarium. So basically, the talk about this is pretty much essentially what the magazine is about. It's an intellectual exploration of the culture of women historically and in a contemporary way where we sort of honor the bad girl, those who go too far, those exist outside of the known thing. Like I said, I wanted to say part of the reason Victoria Woodhull was one of the early profound inspirations for the magazine. And part of the reason was I did study, I took feminist courses in women's studies and women's history, and I got the typical things of UK, and then there was half a page in one book mentioning her, and I was like, who is this? This is the stuff I want to read about. Quilting, that's cool, but really I want to read about her. Okay, this is awesome.
What's the name of your magazine, please?
Whore! Exclamation point.
You're not confused with Fangoria, which is a horror magazine?
No. So actually, our feature in the next issue, our feature is La Llorona. Is anybody familiar with her? Yes. So in the history, because she's actually, the ghost legend is actually closely tied to a legitimate woman in history who was the mistress, wife, lover, interpreter for Cortez. So it's a very interesting story. So we attempt to explore a lot of these issues, the idea of fetish, revolution, empowerment, all these different issues, and sort of really delve into them and sort of bring a richness out of not only the intellectual exploration and historical data, but also in terms of the personality and the way that we focus on the presentation of these ideas, so that there's color and style and movement in the expression of the writer themselves. storytelling is very, very important when you're inviting people into learning about things and taking information into them. Yes, I just wanted to give a little love to the woman in the back of the room. There's another inspiration for the magazine was Carol Queen. Not only an inspiration for the magazine, but a huge inspiration for me. I met her when I was 16, and I do give that woman credit for carving me out on a path in my life. So, to her. Yes?
You said the first issue of Whoredom magazine sold out.
Oh no, the third. They're all sold out.
Are those issues available? Can you order those online?
Right now, we don't have back issues available. However, we have uploaded the second issue, or the third issue online. We're going to do it with the other ones, and we're going to set that up as we gear up for releasing the fourth issue. But in the meantime, so yeah, we'll probably, so you know, a little bit of money, and you get to just see it on your screen. You know, because whatever, it costs a lot of money to reprint these things. And in the meantime, I would love for y'all to love us on Facebook. We post fun little bits there, articles, strange arcane ephemera, pictures of rhinestones dropping from the ceiling. Yes? One more question.
Hi, can I buy you a martini?
Yes, you can! I know that! I almost want that to be the last question, but I will honor the lovely woman in purple.
Thank you. What you were talking about with folks sharing with you such a deep level, like holding a person who was crying, it strikes me you must feel like a therapist of sorts at times, right? I mean, these moments, these times, but not even. I mean, more intense and even more special than therapy, I think. In that it's like a rarefied kind of low talk way, and maybe with or without sex, it seems like the intimacy is there. The safety. I mean, can you get licensed as a special kind of therapist and show therapy there?
Actually, you can. They're known as sex therapists. It's a very legitimate career path, and they do amazing work. What I want to honor your question.
I was kind of joking, but no. I mean, I lived in Australia for years, and there are brothels there, and it's like fine with everybody. And somebody else asked about, what if it was more accepted here, and you would lose some of the drama and romance of the horror role. But no, and I stood up from the other side because no, I want to just pay tribute to what you do because I mean I'm a therapist and I can't hold people in the time I don't know how it's just they deserve pieces of that. But what you do is I think it's important to that people do need to do that. Thank you for doing the work. So can you respond to that as far as people come to you sometimes just to have that kind of intimacy?
Absolutely, yes, they do. And it's actually funny because full disclosure, I'm actually happily married now. I did get married. And so some of the intimate pillow soft apps have ceased. I'm not engaged in that part of it anymore. However, yes, people still come to me and people still come in and they sort of trust that process. And I'm certainly, yes, like stayed over to a friend's house and, I'm here. And I think it's like I said, it's sort of more about the karmic balance. It's like I really respect people who do the work that you do and actually really provide a process for people working through a lot of the things that need to work through. And when I use that along, it's just, sometimes you just need to be petted. Sometimes you need to cry. Sometimes you just need to tell your worst secret and not have somebody react in horror. And I think we can kind of all do that for each other at any place, but there has been a peculiar, I felt more real in those moments. I felt more secure and knowing of myself than I did in a lot of the other moments that for other people are very, for instance, and I don't mean any offense for this, but like a room with 10 or more women in it, all women completely freaks me out. And I love it, and it's amazing, and it's obviously a lot of work I do, it's something I regularly do, but it's like I always feel like there's these unspoken things that I'm supposed to be paying attention to that I'm just going to miss entirely, and I'm going to offend somebody, and I really don't mean to. So that's what I think, is there are certain environments that strangely I just don't feel comfortable in that for other people are the one things, and I weirdly feel very, very comfortable in those sort of intimate moments of people being in their, letting it out. you know, sweating and